ओम सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति। ओम सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। सर्ववेदान्तसिद्धान्त गोचरं तमगोचरं गोविन्दं परमानन्दं सद्गुरुं प्रणतोऽस्म्यहम्। Hari Om, salutations to all. So we are seeing here the final words of advice that the teacher is giving. More for us, the student is established in the self, the student expressed the abidance in the self also. Still the teacher has a lot of compassion and the teacher is giving some more advice which is in terms of pointers of the self, which is in terms of the attitude of living as the self. So 521 is what we had seen. Iti natam avalokya shishya varyam samadhigatat samadhigata atmasukham prabuddha tattvam pramudita hridaya sadeshi kendraha punaridamaha vacha param mahatma. Having understood that the student has gained the bliss of the absolute self, is enlightened, and this student has come to express gratitude and is prostrating, the teacher spoke these words. Now 522. ब्रह्म प्रत्यय संततिर्जगदतो ब्रह्मैव तत्सर्वतः पश्याध्यात्मदृशा प्रशांत मनसा सर्वास्वस्थास्वपि रूपादन्यदवेक्षितं किमभित्तः चक्षुष्मतां विद्यते तद्वद्ब्रह्मविदः सतः किमपरं बुद्धेर्विहारास्पदम्। ब्रह्म प्रत्यय संततिर जगदतो ब्रह्मैव तत्सर्वतः. He says that the perception of a person who has realized is that there is only Brahman everywhere. Pashya adhyatma drisha. This one has to see with the spiritual vision. How one will attain that prashanta manasa, sarvasvavasthasvapi, in all situations. So the sarvasvavasthasvapi can be connected to both the words. Keep the mind calm, settled, quiet in all the situations, and perceive Brahman as everything in and around you. Rupadanyad avekshitam kimabhitaha chakshushmatam vidyate. So for a person who has eyes, they will see form. They will see this whole universe and color and various sizes and shapes. What is the meaning of that? Contrast it with somebody who is blind. They will not see the names and forms, colors. But one who has eyes, who has the vision, they will see form alone. They don't have, for them it is very natural. In the same way, one who has the spiritual vision, Tadvat Brahma Vida Satakima Param. For that person, what else is there except truth, except Brahman? Buddher Viharaspadam. So the intellect of this person perceives Brahman alone everywhere. That's their vision. Internal vision is that. Externally, even if they see the forms, their uh, vision is that these are these are appearances of Brahman alone. These are not, earlier what was the thinking, these are completely separate from me. So I am different, world is different, God is different, was a internal sense of duality. Now that internal sense of duality is gone, that is called Buddha Viharaspada. That person has the clarity that all these are appearances of Brahman alone, and there is only one Brahman, that is me. So they see only Brahman everywhere. Now this all depends upon our level of evolution. Gurudev used to give this example that suppose there is a person, if we identify ourselves with the body, when we look at the other person, we see only the body. So we see the height, the gender, the form, the color of the skin, the style they have. So our perception is at the body level. If we lift ourselves from body level to a higher level, emotional level, then we will see, oh, this person is my friend, or this person is my son or daughter or spouse or enemy, whatever. So we relate at that level, then emotions are higher than the physical body. If one looks at it intellectually, analyze what is that person made up of, then one says this is only bundle of 5 elements. It's only a composition of compilation of us of all different cells. And intellectually also one will see that this body also is made up of 5 elements, that is also made up of 5 elements. And 5 elements by themselves are inert. So what is making them function? So at intellectual level, the perception becomes more deeper and more, one goes beyond appearances. And as one keeps inquiring in that level, one comes to spiritual level where one sees, oh, the self in me is the self in all. There is only one self. So at body, mind, intellect level, we are different from each other. But at the level of the spirit, the self is one in all. That is what he says here. Brahma pratyaya santatir jagadato brahmaiva tat sarvata. One experiences that Brahman within and one sees Brahman alone everywhere, all around. And the solution is this, not solution, the means to have this vision is the second line. Adhyatma drisha, there's a spiritual vision. So steadily one has to lift oneself from the physical perception. Not that in spiritual vision there is no physical perception. One will have physical perception. But this psychological distinction or the differentiation, superiority, inferiority, high and low, and mine and not mine, all those are gone. So that is what has to be achieved. Pasya adhyatma drisha. And this vision, the spiritual vision will come when? When the mind has become quiet and intellect has become sharp. Prashanta manasa. So it is not more a question of looking at the world and trying to see it as Brahman. It is quietening the mind and turning within to realize that I am that supreme consciousness, I am not the BMI. Then Anyway, the whole universe appears as Brahman. But if I don't quieten the mind and turn within, intellectually I may keep saying, I am Brahman, you are Brahman, world is Brahman, but mind will remain only in Brahma, in delusion, that I am the body. All attachments, everything remains as it is. So whenever people say that this is intellectual, tell us practical, practical. Practical is sit and quieten the mind, full stop. Use any sadhana given in the scriptures for it. How many types of sadhanas are given? What more practical do you want? For all temperaments, sadhanas are given. Karma Yoga sadhana is given. Bhakti Yoga sadhana is given. In that, so many varieties are there. Puja is there. Japa is there. Meditation, Dhyan. So many. Then do Nitya Nitya, Nitya Nitya Vastu Vivek. Get into Samadhi Avastha. Shravan Manan Nididhyasan. Rata, Yajna, Tapa, Dana, Tirtha, Yatra. How many? I mean, if you look at our scriptures, the amount of sadhanas given are so many. There's a whole book of Swami Shivanandaji called Sadhana, this fat book. How many sadhanas are given in that? And what are the challenges that come, how to overcome these challenges in the sadhana, and different sadhana, Mount sadhana, Antaranga sadhana, Bahiranga sadhana, Swara Yoga sadhana, Bhajan sadhana. He has given a big list. Best part is with so many sadhanas available, we still don't do. And then we still say this is very high philosophy. We can't understand. We can't relate to this. Tell us something practical. To do these sadhanas. So when we start doing these sadhanas, then the mind learns to become quiet. Then this is actually the most practical one. Everything else is unreal, impractical. But that impractical thing I'm thinking is practical. And this is which is practical, which is my true self right here and now, that I'm thinking is very high philosophy. So the point is, make the mind quiet, prashanta manasa, and bring about a calm mind through consistent sadhana. Take one sadhana and do it consistently, daily, which helps to engage the emotion. It is not about intellectually concentrating or using willpower. One can't go far with that. It is not about disciplining oneself through rigidity or through harshness or, great amount of force. I don't deny that sometimes we may need to use, because our mind can become, very erratic or impulsive. There's nothing wrong if one has to use willpower as a means to discipline the mind sometimes, but that cannot be the main sadhana. That cannot be the main approach. Bhavana is the main thing. Whichever sadhana I take up, what is my bhavana behind it, and what is the bhavana towards the Lord or whatever is the support system I am using? Is my bhavana engaging in that sadhana? Then focus will happen automatically. If bhavana is not engaging in that, nothing can work. It may be the best sadhana. Meditation will not work unless bhavana is there for the self or for Bhagavan's Rupa. Puja will not work, japa will not work. Till bhavana doesn't come into picture, it will not work. So that is what we have to do. Prashanta manasa sarvas vavastha swapi. In all situations, try to keep the mind quiet. Quiet means not thoughtless. Quiet means where this thinking and his ego pressure is not high. Where one is able to take things in much broader perspective and vision, with much more detachment, objectivity, one is able to do the duty. One doesn't allow attachments, emotions to make oneself impulsive. In face of challenges, one suddenly doesn't start panicking. One faces it with courage. Okay, this is what has happened, now let us see how to deal with it. So that is called Prashanta Manasa. With a quiet mind, In all situations, try to face it. And then the example he has given is how it is easy for a person who has the vision to see forms. There is no effort. Effortlessly one sees the forms. The effortless awareness of the self in me is the self in all. That is indicated by this example. Right now, just like how effortlessly we are aware that we are different from each other, same effortlessness, one is aware that there is only one self and that is all this. Like the person who has the eyes will see form, doesn't have to do anything, just open the eyes and see the form. No great difficulty is there in it. But a blind person or a person who has temporarily lost vision, that person will have challenge. Then the eye has to be, whatever the operation has to be done, etc. The vision has to be restored, then that person can see. So in the same way, here when we quieten the mind, have a spiritual vision and try to look at everything from a spiritual standpoint. Not just at the physical level, not just at emotional or intellectual level. From the spiritual standpoint, what is the essence in that and what is the essence here? One will see there is only one self. Tadvad Brahmavida Satak Kima Param. Hence, for a knower of Brahman, what else is there? Everything is appearance of Brahman, effortless appearance of Brahman. Buddher Viharas Padam. Then, continuing further. Kastam Punar Anandarasanubhutihi. Kastam Punar Anandarasanubhuti. Kastam Punar Anandarasanubhutim. Utsrajya Shunyeshu Rameta Vidwan. Chandre Mahahladini Dipyamane. Chitrendumalokayitum ka ichet. In this third line, Chandre Mahahladini. It has to be her with la, not Hradini. Hra, it should not be her with a Rishikara. It has to be her, inside her should be la, Hladini. So, what he says here, Kastam Punar Anandarasanubhutim Utsrujya. Who will abandon the experience of supreme bliss for Shunyeshu Rameta Vidwan? For blank. Shunya literally is blank. And Shunya here also is enjoyment of petty paltry things, which is compared to infinite bliss, the temporary petty little pleasure is actually zero, is nothing. Why will one settle for this petty little pleasure when one can experience the absolute bliss? And one who is experiencing absolute bliss, one will not be bothered about petty pleasures. That's the point. Kastam punar anandarasanubhutim utsrujya shunyeshu rameta vidwan. That vidwan who has experienced that absolute bliss, no more tempted by petty little pleasures. Person who has understood very well that those childhood toys don't have a joy. They will not be tempted. They may play with it to entertain a child, but they don't get tempted by it. Punar anandarasanubhuti mutsrijya. And they don't leave their maturity and their higher joys for playing with some petty toys in the world. And another example given here is Chandre Mahahladini Dipyamane. When there is a real moon, which one can see, and you know the moonlight is there and the cool breeze is blowing and one feels very happy looking at the real moon. white color, and it's there in the sky. One sees the moon. When the real moon is available, who will be one who is satisfied with a painted moon? Chitrendru Chitrendum alokaitum ka ichet. Chitra Indu. Indu means moon. Chitra is picture. This picture of this moon, why will one be satisfied by a painting of a moon when the real moon is available? These two analogies are very, very powerful. See, for the student, it is not, that I said earlier also, this student, it is not meant for the student. Through the student, it is meant for us. Because we study, we understand Vedanta also. Many things we are convinced by also. But we still go back to the same world of seeking temporary pleasure, running behind things, people, situations, insisting, resisting, all that continues. So he gives this example that one who has experienced that bliss will not run behind things. At least intellectually, one has come to understand the thought transformation when it has happened, attitudinal transformation when it has happened, then behavioral transformation has to happen. If there is a dichotomy, that means thought transformation is not complete. That means there is some emotional attachment which is preventing, some fear is preventing, or some confusion is still there about the concept. Then the behavior will not reflect. If one is convinced by it, the behavior will reflect very easily. So the conviction and the purity, they are very important for behavioral transformation. If behavioral transformation, it is not happening, is not a problem of the knowledge, it's a problem of I have not reflected on it and I am not intellectually convinced, or I don't have the courage to emotionally come out of my attachments and live the new knowledge. I am stuck in some comfort zone and I don't want to come into the unfamiliar territory, and I don't want to shake up what is already settled. I am very well settled. These are my people. This is my world. These are my things. Now I don't want to come out of that. And we don't know what is, whether Brahman exists, does not exist, and all kinds of notions are there. Then it won't come into behavior. Here it is. He says that why will somebody who is experiencing that state will come down to this level? Shunyeshu rameta buddha vidwan. So that pun on the word is also there. A person who is experiencing bliss will not bother about shunya. Shunya is not the highest state. Blank is not the highest state, and blank is not what one seeks. What is your goal? Blank. Why do you want blank? Blank. If they say, why do you want blank? So that I experience happiness, then you are not seeker of blank. You are seeking happiness only. And the absolute state is a state of bliss, not a state of blank. Why did you leave all this? To experience blank. And there are people who have bought this philosophy also. And they're trying to make their mind blank in meditation. For that, why are you struggling? That you can make mind blank in 1,000 other ways. Tell somebody to give you one shot, mind will become blank. Go to deep sleep, mind will become blank. There are many ways to make the mind blank. That is not a big state to achieve. Ananda, Param Ananda Rasanubhuti. When the ego is sublimated completely, there is a infinite bliss one experiences. That is the supreme state. Compared to that, blank is nothing. And even petty paltry pleasures of the world, which are so ephemeral and which drain our energy, they are to zero. They are nothing in front of that state. Vishwamitra Rishi, when he was in sadhana avastha and he had not attained the state of realization, he got tempted. Menaka came and he got tempted. And Shakuntala was born to them. And that Shakuntala and Dushyant, their son is Bharat, who ruled this country. So our country is named after that Bharat. There's another Bharat who is mentioned in Vishnu Puran. He is the son of Rishabh. So it seems that both these versions are correct. At some point I thought that one of them only is correct, but no, both these versions are correct. At different points in history, they must have ruled this kingdom of this country. So the point is that when he was in that state, where he has not mastered his mind, he got tempted. But when he attained Siddhi, nothing tempts him after that. Same way, the man of realization cannot be tempted with anything. Least of all is the pleasures at the body level. Because for them, the body, we have seen what is their attitude towards the body. They look at this body as a collection of bones and dirt and filth and marrow. The saving grace is there is intelligence here and the intellect is here which can realize Brahman. Apart from that, this body has no other use. Exhaust the vasanas, quieten the mind, realize Brahman. That's the only main purpose of this body. One may disguise it in any other way if one wants. But the main purpose is only this. So they don't get tempted, neither by pleasures nor by power. You can't buy them. You know, they say everybody has a price. Realized master has no price. If a person who is established in values uncompromisingly has no price, what to talk about Brahman? Person who is established in Brahman has no price at all. You can't buy. Alexander tried to buy one Mahatma like that. Because his teacher told him, when you go to Bharat, you bring these three things. Bring Ganga water, bring Tulsi plant, and bring a realized man. So Ganga water and Tulsi plant he got. Where to get a realized man? So he found, made inquiries and all that, and somebody said this person is realized. So he sent his soldiers. Mahatma refused to come. He said, I don't want to come. I'm happy here. Below a tree, he is sitting there. They go and report. Alexander gets offended. He sends him again, giving him some offer. You know, Alexander will give you this much wealth, or whatever you feel like asking, you can ask. This Mahatma doesn't come. So they capture him and go. Put him in the jail. And Alexander comes there. And he says that you have to come with me. Mahatma says, I don't want to come. Ask anything you want, I can give you, but you come with me. He says, I want nothing. I'm happy with what I am. If at all you want to give me something, move. Let the sunlight come. Think about it. That Alexander got so upset. He said, what is this? Nobody has insulted him like this. The Mahatma was not trying to insult him. The Mahatma was saying, I don't need anything. If at all you want to give, just move. Sunlight is coming, that's enough. By your giving any power, wealth, position, nothing makes a difference to me. You keep it with you. So Alexander got so upset. He said, I will kill you. So the Mahatma very coolly, he says, even as you see this body dropping, I will also see this body dropping. Then Alexander understood that why his teacher told him to get a Mahatma from Bharat. Why? Because they are abiding in this knowledge which makes them fearless, absolutely fearless. They can't be tempted, they can't be bought. Nothing of this world will affect them, including death. That they have arrived, that is a state to be in. So that's what this is. Kastam punarananda rasanubhutim utsrijya. And who will abandon that for petty things? One will not. Chandre mahahladini ditya mane. Now that example is also very powerful. Real sun, real moon is there out there. And why will one take a paper painted moon or a canvas painted moon and satisfy oneself? Nothing wrong in having a scenery or a painting where the moon is there, one admires, but that is not the real moon. Go out and see. Even the painter has been fascinated by the real moon who has painted this. And the objective of that painting is to help you to see the beauty of the real moon. Not to be satisfied with that paper moon. In the world, we are so satisfied with the artificial or temporary pleasures that the real bliss of the self one has forgotten. It is literally like being satisfied with the paper moon. One philosopher even said, thoughts are paper tigers. What is his name? Jean-Paul Sartre. I think he said that. Thoughts are paper tigers. Who gets scared of a paper tiger? The real tiger is a threat. One runs when one sees a real tiger. But paper tiger, looking at a painting or a photograph of a tiger. You know, so many people go to this wildlife safari and all that, and then they will take photographs, tiger photography. They go specifically to do tiger photography. Then they come back and then they share it with everybody and people see it also and put it on social media and all that. Now looking at that, who is going to get scared? If somebody is scared looking at that picture of a tiger, how foolish would that be? But that is what we are doing in this world. Our thoughts are persecuting us. They are paper tigers, like this paper moon. Our thought says there is pleasure in that and we fall for it. That is not a real pleasure anyway. The real pleasure is prashanta manasa sarva swavastha swapi. Experience the bliss of Brahman at all times. And whatever petty pleasure is coming from the temporary sense objects is actually a reflection of that real one. So the objective of the temporary pleasure is actually to lead us to the real, not to make us hanker after more temporary. If a painting is so wonderful, the objective is it creates a desire to see the real moon. If the photo of the tiger is so amazing, one will feel like, I want to go and see this majestic creature. So pleasures of the world are actually to be used to understand what is that absolute state. What is the real source of pleasure? Is it coming from the object? Definitely it is not coming from the object. Pleasure, okay, we can say pleasure is coming from object, but happiness is not coming from there. Is it coming from the contact of the senses and the object? No. That contact may be done, but if the mind is not there, no pleasure one experiences. Acha, then it is coming from the mind. No, it is not coming from the mind also. Because if the mind is there, but the mind is disturbed, again it can't experience. Acha, then it must be coming from the intellect. Desire is fulfilled, so intellect is feeling happy. Because desire is fulfilled. It is not coming from desire fulfillment. Because the next moment another one starts. There is fulfillment in that. Fulfillment means gaining which nothing more remains to be gained. So it is not coming from desire fulfillment. That is a temporary satisfaction one may get. But the real source of happiness is the self alone. So the inquiry into what is the source of happiness, when we do, then even the petty pleasures become a means to come to Brahman, the real source. In the world we do all that or not, but when it comes to realizing Brahman, there we are not tracing the self or the supreme Brahman. In the world, if somebody is successful, one wants to understand the secret of their success and try to live like that and become successful. Lives of so many people, one, the biographies, autobiographies, articles, so many things which are written. One reads all that and one feels, oh, this is how this person became successful. This is the secret of their success. So they go to the source. From this state to that state, how this person, traveled, how this person reached, what all struggles this person went through. And one feels confident, inspired, I can also do it. If this person can do it, I can do it. So in the world, we go through that same thing, but we have to apply for Brahman. Looking at this paper painting of the moon, my desire must be to see the real moon and drop that paper painting. Its job is over. When one sees the real moon, one is not going to compare. Put aside the paper painting, real moonlight, just bask in that moonlight. If one says, no, artist wants to compare, that's a limitation of example. The idea here is that don't be satisfied, meaning we are compromising. That's what it says here. When we can be, happy with the absolute bliss, we are compromising with petty pleasure, which is like paper moon, when I can actually experience the absolute bliss. All that is required is quietening of the mind and clarity of the vision. That's all. So not to compromise, because see, petty pleasures, even the animals, birds, they all also enjoy. They also see plurality. There is no great aspect to see plurality. The beauty is to see oneness. That all this appearance of Brahman, that requires effort. Duality to see doesn't require any effort. One is anyway seeing duality. And one is anyway hankering after temporary pleasure. Bhokta, Bhogya and Bhojanam. That Triputi, that vision, so everybody is having that. Not to chase after that, to withdraw from that attitude that I am a Bhokta. If I withdraw from attitude I am a Bhokta, then Bhogya Vastu and Bhojanam make no sense to me. Or I don't hanker after them. Because I am not a Bhokta, I am not a Bhogi. Who I am Brahman. Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. That is the real moon. So what Vedanta is telling us, don't settle for the artificial, go for the real. Why will we settle for the artificial when we cannot afford the real? People wear artificial pearl necklace. Why one settles for the artificial? Because I can't afford the real. The real pearl necklace is very costly. So in the world, we settle for the artificial because you can't afford the real. But in Vedanta, real is our nature already. And still we are settling for the artificial. How strange is that? Suppose a multi-billionaire who has hundreds and thousands of pearl necklaces wears an artificial pearl necklace. What will the people say? Arey, this person has left real one and wearing artificial. They will become a laughing stock, or people will make comments on it. That's exactly what we are doing. When we as human beings are capable of realizing that absolute, why one is settling for less? Temporary things in the world, they are artificial things. It has some place in life, but it is not life. It is not real. Brahman alone is real. So that analogy is a powerful one. Every time one gets fascinated by some pleasure or some attachment to power, position, remember paper moon. It's all paper moon. No, but Swamiji, when everybody is having paper moon and I don't have paper moon, then I feel very sorry. So I also have paper moon. That is our argument. Everybody is satisfied with paper moon. If you don't have paper moon, then you have a chance to look up at the real moon. Take it positively. That the mind is not fixated at the paper moon. You are able to see that, okay, they all have paper moon. But from where did that paper moon come? It came from the real moon. Where is the real moon? Look up, you will realize. Is that not what the Mahatmas have done? Everybody is running behind temporary pleasure, so I am also running. No, they are watching from where the source of this is. They have gone inside. They have also played with the temporary and understood that there is nothing here. Then turn inside. So it is not that we never had a paper moon. Some particular paper moon we don't have. Somebody has certain pleasures, you don't have that pleasure, but you must have enjoyed some other temporary pleasure. So already you have played with paper moons. How long will you keep playing with the paper moon? Look at the real one. So that's a powerful example here. 523. 524. Asat padartha anubhavena kincha kinchit nahyasti triptirna cha dukkha hanihi tadvat tadadvayanandarasanubhutya tripta sukham tishtha sadatmanisthaya. Asat padartha anubhavena kinchit. When the unreal objects are being perceived, nahyasti triptir nacha dukkha hanihi. There is no tripti in that, and it will not destroy our sorrow. See, tripti here means the permanent bliss, which satisfies the desire once and for all, that new desire doesn't arise. That supreme state of happiness which we seek is referred as tripti here. And dukkha-hani means it does not destroy my sorrow. The temporary pleasure cannot destroy my sorrow, cannot destroy my craving. In fact, it gives rise to craving. So I don't experience absolute bliss, nor is my sorrow destroyed. So the two objectives of life, Paramananda Prapti, Atyantika Dukkha Nivritti, they are not possible. By running after this Asat Padartha, the temporary things, unreal things of the world. Nahyasti Triptir Nacha Dukkha Hani. But opposite of that is this state. Tad Advayananda Rasanubhutya. Only by the experience of the non-dual bliss of the self. Triptaha. That person becomes fully satisfied. Sukham Tishtha. That person abides in happiness. Sadatma Nisthaya. So the advice of the Guru is experience that self through Atma Nishtha, by gaining abidance in the self through continuous, practice of samadhi, etc. And remain in blissful state. Tripta Sukham Tishtha. Remain absorbed in that state, or perceive this whole world also as Brahman. So there's no running behind temporary things or the unreal things of this world. So again the contrast is brought. The jiva keeps running behind temporary things and it gets it also. We get all that we want also, but still we don't feel tripta. That is a problem here. Tripti even as a value we don't have. Forget Atma Tripti. Atma Tripti is much higher. Even as a value of the mind, Tripti as contentment. Where is contentment? One doesn't feel contented in anything. That roga is called bhava roga, afflicted by that discontentment. Nothing is enough. At every level, wealth is not enough, power is not enough, glory or fame is not enough, love is not enough. How much people love, there are how many people to love us, still that is not enough. Still one feels insecure, still one feels, I don't know whether they really love me or they're just making a show of it. Where is Tripti? Pleasure is not enough. In what are you satisfied? If a question is asked to all of us, in what are you satisfied? At a worldly level also, we will say, I am satisfied with this, but finished. Where is satisfaction after that? That could have been better. This should have been much more. That could have been that way. Very good. So even as a value of mind, contentment of the mind, we have seen this earlier. If the santosha of the mind is not there, Atma Santosh, Atma Tripti cannot be experienced. Contentment of the self is highest state, gaining which nothing more remains to be gained. All dukkha is destroyed. The only solution for that is Advayananda Rasanubhutya. Experience the bliss of the non-dual self. As long as duality is there, finitude is there, there will be fear, there will be insecurity, there will be discontentment at some level or the other. So what has to be done? Not that we should not cultivate contentment of the mind, that we should cultivate, so that we can turn within and drop this ego. Because when egoless we become, then that is absolute tripti. Advayananda Rasa Anubhutya. When one is experiencing that inner bliss, then there is nothing outside that one feels, one is lacking. His mindset of lacking is what is the issue. And that mindset of lacking is what creates so much of violence in this world. Just think about that. How much violence, Hare Ram. All because the mindset is lacking. I am lacking this, I am lacking that, I don't have power, I don't have position, my ideology should be followed by the whole world. I am lacking till I don't make the whole world follow my ideology. What all goes on happening in the world just because one feels I am lacking. And the sad part is, even if you get all that, you will still be lacking. Why? Because ego will always feel incomplete. How many stories are there to tell us that? Even if you consider them as symbolic stories, not real ones, still there is so much to learn from it. All the asuras were like that or not? They did tapasya, they got power, they got blessing from Bhagwan, and then they conquered all the three worlds. Bhuhu, Bhuva, Suvaha, they conquered all the three worlds. They became monarchs of the three worlds. So we are not talking about one country here. We are talking about three worlds. The Shastra says even after getting three worlds, which means pleasures of the heaven, all the beings of the interspace, and all the pleasures on the earth, and all the name, fame, power, glory that comes with it. All the devatas are subdued by the asuras. They will control phenomenal forces. They will have complete control over the heavens, the interspace on the earth. In spite of that, they will not be happy. Now, what more to say? That because that's the nature of the ego. It will never be tripta and it will always be dukhi. No matter what this ego gets, it will dukhi only. So in Vedanta, we have a technical name for the waker. Consciousness identified with the physical body going through the waking state is called Vishwa. So generic name of the individual is Vishwa. So all of us are Vishwa. But then there will be confusion. So each of us have a different name also. But otherwise we are Vishwa. Individual egos are called Vishwa. But actually the name should be Mr. Dukhi. Continuously this ego is in dukkha only. Now this is not there, now that is not there, now this person is not responding in this way, now that situation is not correct, that object I don't have, something or the other goes on complaining. No matter what one gets. So Gurudev used to tell us, all people are suffering. Poor also are suffering, rich also are suffering. Only difference is, poor has no choice in suffering, the rich can choose their suffering. All people are suffering. Because everybody is looking at somebody else and what they have and I don't have, and then they suffer. So then, samsari's life is that. Always somewhat sorry, always miserable, crying, weeping. And tripti is not there. Ananda is not there. Dukkhahani is not there. Just look at the contrast, how it is. In the same world, these great Mahatmas, they are living. Advayananda Rasanubhutya, Tripta Sukham. They live in bliss. Simple things of life can bring them such bliss because they see Brahman everywhere. Can you imagine sitting like Tapan Maharaj, sit in his kutia and keep watching Gangaji and revel in the bliss of Brahman. Try doing that. Or go to the ocean and sit and watch. In 2 seconds, the mind will go away from the ocean to something else. One will not be able to see this is all Brahman and experience great bliss. One may enjoy some beauty of nature, one may appreciate, one will feel very nice about it for some time. After that, again the mind will come back to I. But what are these Mahatmas living in? Every single moment, everything that they see is all Brahman. So for Tapan Maharaj, that Gangaji is Brahman in liquid form. What is that supreme beautiful state? Tripta Sukham Tishtha. They are reveling in that absolute bliss. They don't have any insecurity and they remain established in that self. That is the way to live in the world. Sadatmanishtaya, with complete abidance in the self, knowing who I am truly. When I don't know who I am, I feel I am the ego, then all misery starts. Hence, the knowledge of the self is the greatest knowledge because it destroys the root cause of sorrow. So all insecurity, fear, everything goes away. Hence, the advice of the teacher is what? That think of these opposite states and seek the absolute and remain as the self in the world. Atha parabrahmatmanas thiyatam. Shankaracharyaji's first instruction in Sadhana Panchakam is Vedo Nityam Adhiyatam. Study the Vedas daily. Last instruction is Atha parabrahmatmanas thiyatam. Remain as Brahman forever. So all the great masters did that. Swameva sarvatha pashyan manyamana swamadvayam swanandam anubhunjanaha kalam nayamaha mate. Swam eva sarvatha pashyan, seeing the self alone everywhere. Manyamana swamadvayam, and considering oneself as a non-dual self, because seeing myself as everyone else can be applicable even at mind level, where we say that I am a human being, everybody is a human being, I am a living being, every other person is a living being, every other entity also is a living being. So I can see oneness, and that is a good level to become more kind, compassionate, sensitive, to avoid violence. So that is a good expansion from ego of I to seeing the same self everywhere, at same entity everywhere. Not entity, we should say. The same, there is a unity in our state as a human being, as an Indian, or as a living being, whichever level one sees oneness. So one identifies with a larger group. But here is very clear, it's not only that, it is one who has transcended the mind and sees the self in all. Me is the self in all. Pashyan manyamana swam advayam, that there is non-dual self. I am that non-dual self, there is no duality here. Then what will happen? Swanandam anubhunjanaha. One will experience the bliss of the inner bliss of one's own self. Kalam naya mahamate. And he says, you spend time reveling in that bliss. This is called chilling out in life. Really. If you want to chill out in life, be like the realized man. They can really chill out. Why? Because what has to be achieved is achieved. Then chill or chill. Otherwise, pill or pill. Go on eating pill after pill. Ego can give us only pills after pills. Sleeping pill, anxiety pill, depression pill, all pills we have to keep eating. Heart pill, cholesterol pill. Go on eating pill after pill. Mahatma revels in bliss. That is chill. Because everything which has to be achieved is already achieved now. There is nothing more to achieve. That is called chilling or not. When somebody says, after my 10th exam is over, I am just going to chill out, means all that had to be studied for that 10th exam, 10th is over, appa, finished. Now throw a party and chill in life. Some project is over and success is achieved and they throw a party and we'll have a blast. Why? Because hard work one has done and one has achieved a certain higher level of success and fame and glory and all that. Now we will chill. After some time, again something else has to be achieved. Again, one has to put a lot of effort. So our life goes up and down like that. Hard work and chill, again hard work, again chill. So we keep taking break because there's so much more to achieve. Real bliss is this Advayananda Rasa. Pashyan Atmanam Swam Advayam. Then that person there's nothing more to achieve. That is called Krita Kritya. What has to be done is done. There's nothing more to achieve now. One has realized absolute bliss. Then what will one do in life? Revel in that bliss. Whether that Mahatma is sitting quietly, unaware, people are unaware of his or her glory, or whether the Mahatma is wandering about like Tapon Maharaj, or the Mahatma is teaching like Gurudev, going around everywhere, their inner state is same. They revel in bliss. So, Swanandam Anubhunjanaha Kalam Naya Mahatmane. If you want to spend time in this way. This is called real time. Reveling in bliss. Where there is no worry at all. Absolutely no worry. Because ego is gone. How beautiful is this state? Just even mentally, if we imagine that there is nothing more for me to seek, there is no agitation, there is no insecurity, there is no feeling of incompleteness, there is no tension, oh, after this, what will I do? What next question is not there. Many times we feel lost in that state. When we think about that state, one says, what will I do in that? Because we think of it as tamasic state, where I will become lazy, This is beyond sattva also. What will you do? You will revel in bliss every single moment. What you really want, that will happen. Each of us, we want that Paramanand. That will happen. Revel in bliss. That question only will go away. What will I do there? There's no doing, there's being. Just be in that bliss. And is it not that all efforts are to lead to effortlessness and to abide in that blissful state? Who wants anything else? Even the enjoyment in the world is when we revel in it or not. And that's why we close our eyes or not. Suppose you want to eat some, whatever, some Black Forest pastry. You have been craving for it and you have to eat that Black Forest pastry. Now when you take that one spoon and eat, what do? Close your eyes. And what are you doing? Reveling in that bliss. At that time, any thought is there, what next I should do? No, you are just reveling in that. If somebody says, come do this for me, you say, don't disturb me now. Why? You are reveling in that bliss. But that is temporary. So again, one comes down from that. Now imagine that state at all times. I'm not talking pleasure of that eating Black Forest pastry. I am saying that a temporary pleasure we revel in, where we don't want to achieve anything else, do anything else, just be in that state. When we listen to a nice music, what happens? Just close the eyes and absorb the mind in that, where we forget about ourselves completely. That is what this Mahatma is living in infinite times multiplied. Reveling in that bliss. Nothing makes them miserable. What a glorious state is that. So more we continue tomorrow. Every day I think that maybe some 6-7 verses I can take because similar ideas are there. But Bhagavan has some other thought only. He keeps on putting something in the head. All elaborate talk is happening on these verses. If you see our, the commentary of Guru Dev is very small. If you see our Chandrasekhar Saraswati, his commentary, there is no commentary on it only. There is only literal translation. And I took my notes of my Vedant course. Same thing. There is not even 1 or 2 lines written. Tap, 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 one has finished it. So I thought it will be done. But Hari Ichha, whatever is happening. हाँ नीता जी.
Hare Swamiji.
Yeah.
Here in 523, Kastam, in my book it's written Parananda. You said Punarananda. So it's the same.
I never said Punarananda Baba. How will I say Punarananda?
No, I have written it because 2-3 times you said that, so I said let me just check it's Parananda or Punarananda.
I have not said Punarananda. You rewind and see. Punarananda, why will one say?
I don't know. I've written because that time I was getting confused, so I marked that.
Parananda only. There is no Punarananda.
Okay, fine. It's in my book.
Rasanubhuti. Punarananda का रसानुभूति कैसे होगा?
That's what I have written.
It is only Parananda, supreme bliss.
Okay.
Yeah. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.